Welcome to a new episode of the Echo Podcast. This is a series of discussion exploring topics related to remote and virtual work. So today we are talking about redefining business continuity in time of uncertainty. So this is a perfect topic in light of the current COVID-19 situation we are all operating in. My name is Francesca. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Echo. And today joining me are Kate and Nikita. So Nikita is Director of Media Accounts for Asia Pacific at Taboola, and Kate is the Head of M&A and Commercial Planning for Europe and the UK at Pizza Hut. So I think the conversation is going to be very interesting because we have a variety of perspective and industries, and I'm very much looking forward to start. So I will thank you very much, Kate and Nikita, for joining us today. I will ask our guests to give a quick introduction on themselves, their roles, and their industries. So over to you, Nikita.
Sure. Thank you so much, Francesca, for having us. Super excited to be on this podcast. So my name's Nikita. I work at a company called Taboola. For those that don't know what Taboola is the world's largest discovery engine, which helps users such as yourself discover things that they like but didn't know existed before. You may not have heard of us before, but you've definitely seen us before. We at the bottom of articles on the biggest publishers globally, such as Bloomberg, Microsoft. Below the article, more content you may like, you'll see Taboola's feed most likely recommending content, products, and services for you to engage with. The company's been around for 12 and a half years. I personally have been at the company for 6 years, actually celebrating my 6 years on Friday. So thank you. So been within Taboola during quite a pivotal growth phase. So this is just entering another phase now of it during the COVID-19 situation has been quite interesting for me. So definitely excited to share some insights and hopefully learn some insights from you guys as well today. Personal background a little bit. I'm from South Africa originally, and I moved to Bangkok just over 6 years ago as well, just in case you can't place the accent, because not everyone can. So
mine is very easy to place.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks again for having me. I'm really excited to be on this call on such an important topic that's relevant for all of us. As Francesca introduced, I lead M&A and commercial planning for Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut's actually part of Yum Brands. So we own KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut globally, which you can imagine is a lot of restaurants across the globe that are all, really heavily affected during these times. So I have been with Pizza Hut now for almost 7 years. I started my career back in Dallas in strategy for Pizza Hut globally. And then I spent some time in Asia doing commercial planning, and now have spent the past 3 years in the UK. So I'm from the States originally, but loving living in London. So it might be hard to get me to return home. So that's just a quick background on me and, my career so far.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your introductions. So I really would like to start asking you how COVID-19 is impacting on your business and impacting, redefining a bit the business strategy of your business. This is because, as you know, we work in different industries and we have also different backgrounds ourselves. So I think that companies are being impacted by COVID-19 somehow in different ways, but of course, independently from the industries they are operating in or from the markets they are serving. So all the companies are being forced to adapt very quickly and to come up with innovative strategies and solutions to cope with this pandemic. So I'm very curious to understand how your companies are doing this, particularly in your case, Kate. I think it's being quite challenging considering that you have a lot of operations on the ground and I imagine also a lot of frontline staff. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, so, it's really interesting with Pizza Hut because some of you may have grown up going to our dine-in restaurants, but some of you also may be accustomed to purchasing pizza from our delivery stores. Yes. So both have kind of a different reality when it comes to the impact of COVID. In the sense of the challenges based on being able to remain open, or service customers. But we're learning a lot through this experience. And I'll speak to the delivery stores that are able to, many of them, depending on the country, are still open and servicing customers, which we think is important. But some key themes that are relevant that we're, in crisis-like collaboration trying to adapt to. And I think there's probably 3 that are top of mind for me. The first is increasingly, the focus is on the safety of our team members and customers. Obviously, that was always an important component of our business, but that's almost now the first priority rather than something like speed or taste. So making sure our team members who are in store in our delivery stores right now are protected, as well as that we're going through the measures to make sure that our customers feel safe when they purchase our products is really important. Things like social distancing, contactless are really important, and we're making sure are in place in our stores. The second component that's really important for us is supporting our community. So whilst we would like to say, our team members are in some ways in the front line, servicing customers, which is really important because sometimes some of these customers might not actually be able to go to a supermarket, and because they might be in that group that is at risk. But equally, the community in terms of support, what we call our NHS workers in the UK, or those that are, supporting COVID more closely in a way, making sure we're going through to make sure that we can support them by, donating pizzas, servicing them as well. And then the final component is protecting our franchisees. So most people don't actually know that Yum is over 90% franchised. So actually, whilst, we look like this big corporation, our stores are run by many cases small business owners. So doing whatever we can to protect them during this uncertain time is really important so that they can come out of it with a strong and robust business.
Thank you so much, Kate. I think what you're doing is amazing, and you're also providing an incredible service in general to people that are stuck at home during this difficult time. I think that this must be challenging, and I really appreciating you sharing how much you care about your community and preserving that feel of trust with your customers and with your employees. And what about you, Nikita? How is the business strategy of Taboola being impacted by COVID-19?
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting question, and like Kate said, I think Taboola's main focus right now is we're lucky enough to be a company that is online, and all of our employees can very easily shift to working from home, which we're really lucky about. So obviously, first priority is making sure the employees are safe in the company, and I think Taboola stepped up in a really big way, which makes us all proud to work at a company like that and keeps us motivated and confident to move forward. But I think from our perspective, our business strategies have pivoted in the sense that we really want to make sure that the content that we are promoting, that we're distributing out onto the open web, is legitimate content that people can consume and engage with. We don't want to be spreading any fake news around coronavirus, how you may contract it, how you may cure it, things like that. So we've really stepped up our policy in terms of allowing what type of content and what types of products and services to promote on Taboola, to make sure that what we're giving our our users is a quality product or service. And I think it's amazing to see how many companies have pivoted to an online strategy so quickly, all the home workouts, all the home delivery services. And that actually helps us as a company at Taboola because we're helping those smaller companies get discovered. Most people, you and I necessarily won't know all those companies that are pivoting their strategies. And in order for them to get their name known, they can definitely use platforms like Taboola that are helping distribute that information across. Whereas maybe I wouldn't exactly know what name of a company to search if I was looking for a specific home delivery service for fitness equipment or something along those lines. So I think from that perspective, it's been really beneficial for Taboola to start to analyze those categories that we usually develop and spend a lot of time in, such as travel, real estate, and auto, which has kind of taken a bit of a backseat now because that's not a priority, and rather focusing on those products and services that are in need during the current situation. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's very, very interesting. I mean, the perspective that the two perspective that you shared, also because Echo and what we are doing is a bit in the middle. between the two of you, because as Taboola, we are mainly a digital business. So we were lucky in terms of being able very quickly to shift to 100% work from home mode without having our operations too deeply impacted. So we have like our tool, so our Echo app, which is a collaboration and communication tool for remote and smart working. So allowed us to be able to do this shift very quickly. But at the same time, and the majority of our customers are in industries with a very high number of employees. So we work with the hospitality sector, with F&Bs. So it was actually very difficult at the beginning to us to serve these customers in the best way and to make sure that we provide them we add value. So we provide them with the right tools that they need to cope with this situation. So how are you in terms of managing the teams and ensuring the same operational continuity of before? How are you coping with this? Did you have any tool already in place? Is this situation like pushing you to adopt new ways of communicating or managing your team?
Sure. So I'll quickly jump in. I think it's quite interesting because, I think companies often have this perception that the minute you work from home, it's like you're actually just chilling on the couch and watching Netflix. But in reality, we're all working from home now. And depending on what systems your company has in place, I think now is a better time than ever to enforce those systems and make sure that you're actually able to track measurable data that leads to productivity. So from my perspective, I manage a team of 28 people, and generally we all sit in Bangkok, and that was always our biggest plus. We're all together in the office. Now it actually doesn't matter where they sit because we're all online every single day. And I think the biggest thing for me is having that platform that I log into every day to understand what my teams are doing. And now I'm not talking about micromanagement, because you don't want to insert that element of distrust by being on top of them across everything. But you want them to also know that we do have visibility to that data. Therefore, they feel that need to make sure that they are doing whatever it is they need to be doing on a daily basis. And I found that has kind of helped me navigate throughout my wider team and the managers within my team to keep a handle on what their teams are doing and how to keep them motivated from a work perspective. So I think just having those platforms to really log into every day, and it doesn't need to be anything fancy, no matter how big or small the company is, depending on the platform you use, you can cater it towards what you're looking for. And as long as you're clear about to your team what you're looking for and why you're looking for it, you always need to give them the why. I think you can actually create quite a productive workforce from home, is what I've seen.
And before going to Kate, I'm curious about like the level of productivity of the team. So do you think that overall, like the productivity of the team stayed the same, or you struggle at the beginning to adapt to this new work from home situation?
So it's a very interesting question. And personally, when I speak to my team, I think they've actually absolutely amazing job with keeping the productivity high. I would say we're now in week 7 working from home. I would say in week 1 and 2 is all very, this is very exciting. This is very new. Some people had kids jumping on them. Some people had dogs barking at them. And it creates that level of almost more connected in a sense. Like I now know what the inside of all my team's places look like, which is kind of interesting, kind of creepy, I'm not sure. But all in all, I think it actually makes for a stronger connection between the team. So from that perspective, I've actually seen them really step up and try to show and share their productivity. I would say though, you need to increase the lines of communication. You cannot go on business as usual as you were doing back in the office. It won't work like that. The company won't survive like that. So I've increased my lines of communication, and as a result, almost created a little bit of a competition between the individual members. So, who had the most number of calls this week? Who upsold their customers the most audience campaigns this week? Little things like that to kind of make them feel a little bit more gamified, that it's exciting to increase their productivity, not a task that they have to do every single day.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nikita. What about you, Kate? In terms of the way you are, you at Pizza Hut, you are like managing the teams and making sure that all the employees are engaged, but also connected between each other.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of what Nikita said in the sense of communicating more frequently, but authentically. And I say that because, you know, when we started this journey, it was like firefighting all the time. And I think the issue was not productivity, actually. The issue was, how do we maintain a balance? How do we, you know, create these sprints and actually view it less of a sprint and more of a marathon? Because, you know, we're in week 7 too, and it's like every day there's more things, and we're not even in the eye of the storm in a way, because, you know, some things are going to just continue to get more challenging, right? And we need the stamina to be able to, as a team, work together to solve, you know, some of the biggest challenges that we'll face as an organization, you know, or even in our generation potentially. So I think that for the team, it's communicating frequently, but then also, when I mean authentically, in the sense of, you know, increasingly, it's rather than like a work-life balance, it's like a work-life blend. And to what Nikita said, you know, I could be on the video conference and somebody's kid will pop in, or, you know, how do you then take that opportunity to make sure that there's balance, but equally that you're talking authentically to your team so they're staying motivated and inspired. I know, you know, for me, it's like, you know, telling them, guys, today is like a really tough day. Are you guys feeling like it's a hard week? Because I know, like, I'm tired. Versus trying to have this space of like, I have everything together, you know, this is easy, you know. And so I think that in that sense, creating like a human element, considering that there's like a lack of human touch in a way, you know, or connectivity, helps to make it more sustainable, but then also helping the team, you know, really pushing them to create a balance as much as they can. So for example, this week felt a little bit slower. And so I really challenged my team to take advantage of a potential break or some rest. And that becomes our role as leaders, almost less of to, I mean, obviously we're setting the strategy and, you know, helping the team get there, but how do we like help the team from a mental stamina standpoint during this really
is a very interesting angle, Kate. I was about to ask you more about this, because I think that this situation is also pushing us to be better leaders, and companies to really spend more time to think about the mental well-being of their employees. So we need to innovate, we need to be more connected, we need to be more careful. So there are many like ways that I'm seeing around of initiatives are taking place. So for example, companies that are doing digital yoga classes or offering any kind of workshops, just to make sure that they can recreate that feeling of community. And that all the employees feel part of a team and part of a family somehow. So there is
sorry to interrupt, but on that point, actually, it's such a good point, because one of our employees in Australia, he actually hosted a meditation session for all our other colleagues, and then he actually extended it and did it for the clients as well. And it was quite amazing to like see that initiative come out, and that clients were actually super keen to kind of jump in on a meditation, as well as our own colleagues as well. So it's nice to see people taking that initiative.
I think it's incredible also because like, you know, like when we, for example, at Echo, when we moved and we started working from home, there was like this at the beginning was just different, because we are used, like the majority of our workforce is in the office 80% of the days. So we are used to have a lot of in-person meeting time and to interact a lot. So the natural outcome of working from home was at the very beginning having managers, including myself, scheduling a lot of daily things and daily calls, just because they wanted to make sure that things were keeping running like as usual. So they wanted to check on like a lot on the teams. So then we started to realize that working from home could have become very quickly working at any time. So we wanted to make sure, and I think that this is a shared feeling, because like all the companies started to really think a lot about how we can ensure work-life balance, and we can maintain also that small spaces of just interacting with colleagues and like being in the office, recreating that atmosphere in a digital workspace. So is that anything, Kate, that Pizza Hut did in terms of initiatives or ways of making the employees, remembering the employees, the family they are part of?
Yeah, you know, I think to your original point too, some of the challenges we're seeing are different than what we would have expected. Like, it's awesome that we have the ability to like use video conference, but whereas historically before you might have been able to like pass by an employee and ask them a 5-minute question, now people are blocking time in your calendar, which sounds great until, you know, you wake up at 8:30 and it's 6:30 and you've had back-to-back video calls, right?
Totally agree. So me and Nikita always like laugh at each other because we work like we have our teams spread around the world. So there are a lot of different time zones involved, and sometimes we have like long meetings at very unreasonable times in the early morning or in the late evening. So it's very, very important that even if we are working from home, like we find the right balance. Otherwise it can be very tricky, and it can be also difficult for employee themselves to handle and to cope with the pressure, and this can translate into anxiety, into a lot of different issues that are becoming more common nowadays, because this of course is an unprecedented situation, and the world is literally being locked down in their own. So is very interesting. And how do you think like the COVID in general and what you are learning, because I think this is also a learning experience for our businesses, but also for ourselves as people. So I believe that we were forced to adopt new tools and new strategies and to work from home and become way more flexible in the way we handle our operations or we deal with our employees. Do you think that any of this is a precious learning that maybe it's something that can become in the future, even when the situation will be only a memory, hopefully very soon, can become a standard practice, something that maybe can be implemented in the business? I'm thinking about even flexibility. So at Echo, for example, we were we have always had a work from home policy in place, but was something not that relevant and was not really involving a lot of time. So like each employees could work from home like 2 days per month. So we were really thinking that the work from the office added a lot of value, but we were seeing now, we are learning now that actually we are maintaining the same level of productivity is also being spread around. So maybe we can rethink on a later stage our strategy. What is your opinion on this, Kate?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID is busting a lot of management myths per se, or working together myths. And it's great. You know, I think there'll be a lot of great changes that come out of it from a working standpoint. I think a couple that are relevant for me is, to your point, working from home. I think a lot of managers historically would have felt the need to physically see their employees and work with them, you know, at the office. But increasingly, it's clear that, you know, if you build a great team and you trust and you kind of set that strategy and the why, then they'll go after it and they'll be passionate and engaged and be able to achieve great things. So that's definitely one myth. I think there's another myth in terms of, at least we're experiencing, sometimes, you know, it's basically you're spending a lot of time to like fully vet a piece of analysis or push something forward. But, you know, what we're proving is actually, if we have kind of a crisis-like collaboration as a team, we can actually get these things, move them forward much more quickly. An example is, you know, menu rationalization in the UK. Because of the challenges that we're facing in terms of keeping the delivery stores open, in the sense of social distancing back at house in our restaurants, it was really important that we made the menu less complex. And just because of, you know, the different challenges and transactions, et cetera. So whereas that would have maybe taken 6 weeks or more, and then we would have tested it, and then we would have rolled out and looked at results, you know, we made that change in like 4 days, because it was important for our team members to protect them and make it safe. So those are just a couple of examples of like different myths that we're, I think, busting during this period of time.
Thank you very much.
I think that's actually, oh, sorry. I was just going to add, I actually think that that's really interesting, because we've also seen in Taboola teams just pivot super quickly. For example, we've always put customers first at Taboola. That's our mantra. We definitely want to make sure that we're providing the right insights to them. But we've been so lucky to have a great marketing team that supports us, and to watch how quickly they pivoted into creating COVID-based insights for our advertisers whether you're working with us or not, it's completely free of use. We're hosting webinars so whether you want to advertise with Taboola or not, it's really up to you, but you can take this content and you can use it. And we literally rolled that out within a week, and it was up and running, and we're sending it to our sales force to send out to the wider market. So that's been kind of really interesting to see happening. I had another point that I kind of just blanked on a little bit. Maybe hit the hour of the day. Not sure.
No worries.
I did have a point around back to your original question on how it might change things going back in, the new normal, whatever that might be. Yeah. Obviously, Taboola is a very travel-heavy company, and we meet our clients very frequently, and we meet internal teams very frequently. And yeah, there is a question around, do we really need to be traveling that frequently? Is that type of, can we do the same thing we do over video call that we did in person? I think the current situation is definitely going to change the way a lot of companies look at this, and a lot of employees look at this, because travel does take a big toll, and obviously it is a costly expense for a company as well. So trying to look into that and seeing how to integrate what our learnings from this period. I don't think we will ever lose that face-to-face touch. I think that's key in most businesses, not any business. But I do think there may be a way to make it maybe more productive or more useful in a sense. As well as the work from home. I mean, we've already been getting some requests like, do you think we could do a one day a week work from home? And we're like, well, let's see when we actually do come back into the office, whenever that might be. But yeah, I think people are quite more open to the idea. Companies, I feel, are a bit more open to that work from home aspect, knowing that trust is there and that employee is going to be productive.
Yeah, I think for sure, like, this has been an incredible learning exercise for all of us in our respective industries, and we are finding out also different and innovative ways to communicate with our teams and with our colleagues in general. I'm also very curious about the way that COVID-19 has impacted on our relationship, our communications with partners and stakeholders, for example. So the perception of the brand awareness that people in your network have. So have you done any particular initiatives or reached out to your network in terms of explaining what your company was doing and how was coping with the situation?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start, because I actually did touch on it just recently with regards to the marketing insights that we were creating around COVID and Taboola's. Taboola sits on a lot of data. Of course, we have many users that we're interacting with on a daily basis. So although, of course, we're not collecting any personal data, we have a lot of data around what people are interested in looking at, what people are interested in clicking on, what people are interested in on purchasing. So kind of packaging up that data and sharing it, obviously, again, free of charge, because this isn't a time to make money off of these things. Sure. It's a time to help people and actually really help them decide how to pivot their business strategy. So I think how Taboola has tried to position itself is help advertisers change the way they're seeing the current situation and help them. So for example, we actually had a really interesting case around auto. So I mentioned earlier in our chat that, the auto industry is obviously taking a bit of a hit. Of course, no one's really thinking of purchasing cars right now because A, they can't go anywhere, and B, it's quite a big expense. But what a lot of the big brands are doing, Nissan and the likes of that, they're actually offering test drives and to come to your home and drop the car off so you can go and test drive it. And then they're promoting that on the platform. So it's really interesting to see how the different companies are pivoting, and Taboola's trying to collect all the insights that we get globally, package that up and really share it with other advertisers that maybe are less savvy or less aware of what's going on in the current situation, and can actually pull insights from that. No matter how big or small their company is, they can pull what insights they think is valuable. So I think from that aspect, that's kind of what Taboola is doing to try to help the situation or help people navigate through the current time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Nikita. What about you, Kate? What's your perspective and what Quixat is doing in terms of communicating with the wider network of people that you guys serve?
Yeah, so I'd probably say our three key stakeholders, and I had mentioned this somewhat at the beginning, really are our franchise partners, right? They're the ones that are running our business, our team members who are working in store, and then obviously our customers. So there is definitely an element of we are more closely over communicating rather than under communicating. So, you know, I'm on calls almost on a weekly basis or more with our franchise partners around Europe, both checking in terms of how they're doing during this extreme time of uncertainty, how we as a brand and as Yum can support them during these times. So working with them quite closely to understand kind of their reality in store. But then for team members, definitely over communicating in terms of the measures we're taking to make sure that they're safe. For example, in the UK, they're deemed essential workers because they're providing, you know, in a really important need for a lot of customers.
They
right?
are, indeed, they are.
You know, people are hungry and they might not want to go to a supermarket.
Yeah, and there are so many people that are not in like they don't have the possibility maybe to go themselves to a supermarket or to grab you are definitely provide an essential service.
Yeah. So, you know, sharing with them the why we're asking them to come in, and not only us, the government, you know, asking them to come into work, and what we're doing to make sure that they're safe when they're in our restaurants. And then finally for customers, you know, during this time, there's not going to be a lot of communication like we would have done in the past where we're advertising our brand or value or things like that, but rather, you know, more personal touches in terms of, you know, just connecting with them and sharing why we're still open, you know, what is the purpose in terms of serving food to the community, but more importantly, what we're doing to support the wider community in terms of the health workers, et cetera. We've signed up with Deliveroo to donate a significant amount of to the healthcare
incredible.
Yeah. So, but it's good because, you know, in some ways those customers also feel like they're supporting then health workers as well through purchasing Pizza Hut. So
thank you so much. I think you are sharing so many interesting things and really also different perspectives on the topics that we are touching. So I'm finding this very interesting. Just as we are moving towards the end of this episode, I would like to ask you a bit of a broader question. So there is there is much going on now and a lot of conversations related to what we call the future of work. And there are a lot of different perspectives of people on this topic. What's your perspective? What's for you the future of work? And I'm not only referring to your industry, but also to the way as a person you are working and you are interacting with colleagues and you are really like having a work-life balance, for example. So if you have to imagine you in the same role, maybe in 10 years from now, what would be different? What should be different?
Maybe Nikita, do you want to start?
Oh, Nikita, go.
Sure. I think it's a great question and probably definitely requires some more thought as well, but I'll definitely give my top of mind opinion for now. I think what's been really interesting for me is to actually see how much I've grown to support and delegate more to my managers and how they've actually risen up during this time and really come to the party and help to support as well. So from my perspective, I'm a very hands-on and I love to, you know, be on the front lines, but then also be managing the team. And what I noticed and what I kind of experienced during this whole situation is you just cannot be everywhere. When you have 28 team members, everyone's online, everyone's operating in a different time zone, you just can't be everywhere everyone needs you to be. So what I've really felt is that I've allowed other members in the team to kind of step up and grow into different positions and different ways of supporting. And it's been amazing to kind of watch that growth as well. So for me, kind of the future of really creating a team that can almost sustain itself. You should never have just one point person that's leading the team. I feel that's not what a team is. And not to say that that's what it was in the past for me, but I'm just experiencing it more and more in this current situation where every person has a role to play. And it's amazing to see the impact they actually have on one another. So from that perspective, obviously, that's where the communication points come in and really kind of growing those lines of communication between the teams and cutting out the noise. I think we have a lot of noise in our day-to-day, like you were mentioning, you know, jumping from one meeting to another meeting. Even when you're in the office, you're jumping from meeting to meeting. Is every meeting actually essential? what I think what the current situation is teaching us is that we cutting out the noise by only having meetings that actually require an action from them, and then actually as a result driving that action forward. Because if you're having meetings just for the sake of it during this time, no one has the time to do that right now. So every meeting in my mind has to have an action attached to it. So the future of work for me, obviously it's a very, very broad question, but it's definitely something that I want to continue to work on for myself, but kind of growing and expanding my team, as well as increasing those lines of communication within them as well. Yeah, Kate, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, all that you said, Nikita, is 100% on point, and I agree with. I think I'd add an element or one other point, which is that I think that what's interesting is during this time is where really the foundation of your leadership shadow, as well as the culture you've built within your team or your organization, is going to be really tested. You know, I'm really grateful to be part of Yum Brands and Pizza Hut, because the focus is always on the people and making sure that they are their best self. And in some ways, I'm so happy to be part of a company where, you know, that's the focus rather than only, you know, just profit or driving relentlessly growth. Because I think that's a more important foundation than some of those other kind of outputs or metrics. But for me, the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway is definitely about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, both applied to professional and personal. So especially during this time, right? You can't take responsibility for what's going on around you. And in some ways, you know, there is a victim mindset of, oh, these things are happening and it's scary and, you know, I'm panicked or I'm nervous, but what we can decide to choose is our mindset. And so, you know, some might choose fear or anger, but those that are going to be most successful and the businesses that are going to be most successful are those that kind of step out of their comfort zone and learn to grow, and learn to think about how can I, you know, take the scenario, which is uncomfortable, but innovate and survive and thrive. And I think the same would apply to, you know, just living your life generally, but equally like as a manager, right? How do you take these new challenges and rather than see them as challenges, see them as an opportunity? So that would probably be kind of from a mindset standpoint and a way of working, something that might encompass a lot of the new changes that we see.
I think if I could just add to that point as well, I think what individual contributors, so people who aren't managing teams but are part of a team, I think what they're also learning is that it's okay to kind of speak up and bring ideas to the table. Taboola has always been really, really good at kind of providing an open platform for people to submit their ideas, whether it be a product idea, whether it be a different placement on one of our publishing sites, whatever it might be. We've always been quite open to it. But I think now that we're in this current situation, people feel a little bit more less exposed and less put on the spot. They feel like, oh, I'm being innovative now because the company's questioning us even more to push forward and give an idea of what we think will work. So I think as an individual, as Kate was saying, that growth mindset is definitely something that they're taking away from this as they kind of grow within their roles and not just be too boxed in to think, you know, this is my role as an account manager. All I need to do is X, Y, and Z. It's so much more than that. Maybe one day I'm selling, maybe the next day I'm managing an account, maybe the next day I'm speaking on a podcast, whatever it might be. And I think
100% agree with you.
That's been one really good takeaway from what I've seen happening at Taboola. We actually repurposed some of our staff members that, for example, we're not hiring as fast, obviously, as we were in previous months due to the current situation. And what we did was we repurposed some of our talent acquisition team to become sales development representatives. So they're actually helping us qualify leads and building and part of the marketing teams to help build insights. So we're giving them things to do that are outside their general exposure, which I think is, again, the future of work, maybe not such a
absolutely,
role.
absolutely. It is absolutely, and is also, I agree with what you both said about having a growth mindset and the importance of being able to react to any kind of situation that will be in front of you, because it's
Definitely.
really about, I also believe that when it comes to employee, I really appreciate the mindset on skill sets sometimes. Because it's about having that kind of flexibility and that kind of like ability to approach problem with adding value and with the right mood and in the right way. Anyway, like I will ask you. Thank you so much for what you're sharing, what you have been sharing so far. I will ask you a final question, very quick, which is more on the personal level. So after these 7 weeks of home quarantine, I believe that COVID-19 is also impacting on you as a human being. So what is changing? What is the biggest takeaway of this time with yourself? So in my case, for example, I had time to think a lot and to also understand more about myself, about what I like, about things that, for example, I've been putting in a corner for a long time because of my very busy routine and work schedule. And now I understood how important it is to have some time for myself to focus on my hobbies or my passions. Is something similar on whatever level happening to you, ladies?
So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Kate.
Nikita, you want to? Okay. So I think like my biggest takeaway from this is actually a sense of like pride because, and I'll explain, because, you know, I'm a huge extrovert. Like I love socializing. I love traveling. Probably the reason why I work is to travel and go to restaurants. So you can imagine this has been quite challenging for me.
So I think we are on the same boat here. If you add also buying drinks, we are exactly on the same boat.
Yeah. So I think it's when this came about, and I also live by myself in London. And whilst that's a luxury, you know, during this time, that can be quite isolating and lonely. So I think I'm really proud that through these 7 weeks, I've been able to kind of change my mindset, and I'm calling it my personal rejuvenation. It was supposed to be a month, but now it's maybe 2 months. And just that, you know, I've been able to kind of learn more about myself and still, you know, be happy and healthy despite not having those things that historically would have been really engaging and quite important for me. So I think that's great, you know, kind of learning more about yourself and also feeling proud that, you know, you survived this and been able to make the most of it.
We survived it, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think from mine, I feel like I'm actually still a little bit more of a work in progress. I feel I've always struggled a little bit with work-life balance. I love my work. I travel a lot for work. So it almost kind of blends into one whole life together. And now working from home, I do find kind of my mornings roll into my afternoons, which roll into my evenings, which roll back into my mornings. So what I'm trying to find is that real clear segmentation of, okay, now's the time to just have a chill, go do a workout with some friends, whether online, of course, not in person. And I feel like that's really what I'm establishing for myself, is kind of setting those boundaries and not, there's only so much you can do in a day, and that's the end of it. There's nothing more you can do. Everyone's in the same situation and we're all trying to navigate through work from home. So there's only so much I can do. So I think from my perspective, it's really just kind of finding those boundaries and feeling comfortable with them. I'm not feeling guilty for sitting on my couch because I'm not sitting at my work from home desk, and really just not, you know, finding comfortableness in, is that a word? To feel comfortable, to be comfortable within my own self, and segmenting between working from home and actually just chilling from home. So yeah.
And I would just add to that, I think like increasingly we must all be kind to ourselves, right? This is like a really challenging time. And sometimes I even find myself being judgy. You know, I don't really watch that much TV, but the other night I watched like an hour and a half of TV and I'm like, oh, this isn't productive. I should be reading a book or doing other work.
See, it's legit. Yeah.
I'm the same.
But then I was like, okay, I need to be kind to myself. This is hard. And, you know, if I want to take an hour and a half and watch like, I don't know, some series, that's okay. And so that's what we must do. I saw there was this terrible like meme or something about somebody saying, well, you know, if you weren't working out before, now you have time. So if you're not working out now, that's just because you have poor discipline. And I was like, what a thing to say. Whilst part of me was like, there's some truth to that. Equally, we're now hit with so many other challenges, you know, that we never would have faced before. And so just to continue to be kind to yourself, and, you know, if you need something to help you that's maybe not so great, you know, or before you would have judged yourself a bit, you know, it's okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay. I think at the end of the day, it's really about surviving this very difficult time, like as individuals, but also as business and as part of communities, and being part of something for sure will help us. And
Yeah.
I believe that in any difficult situation, we can always and still find a bit of positivity and a bit of value in terms of making ourselves better human beings. So that's a wrap on this today discussion on redefining business continuity in time of uncertainty. Thank you so much to the panelists, Kate and Nikita, for joining us today. I found it very interesting, and thank you to all of you listening. So as always, you can find this podcast on our social channels, so on Echo Facebook page or on echoapp.com. So stay safe and see you at the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.